Okay guys, you can probably hear something just to the side of me right here, and it's really interesting. I'm going to share something with you today that I have just discovered that adds on to the information that I've shared with you already in the Truth series, okay? And this, I believe, is going to blow your mind. It blew my mind when I heard it for the first time, when I deep researched into this. And I'm going to share it with you today. I'm going to go back home right now and I'm going to put it onto some slides, and you're going to see this right from the ocean's mouth. Okay, catch you soon. Hey, hi everyone. How are we all doing right now? I hope you're all doing really well and everything this moment is as enjoyable as it possibly can be for you and your family and your friends. So today I'm sharing with you something at the request of a few lovely souls who have asked for it, and especially in the light of the recent times and all these closures and what I know about the truth in this particular area. And this is especially relevant when this is being re-recorded, because I wanted to add a few things to it from what you already have in the Truth series already. And as we're now in the year, 2020, and the world has shut down due to the coronavirus, and nobody knows what the next card is that's going to be played. Well, I've been researching this for some time now, as you know, and have only recently put together the final pieces of this puzzle. And this is something that is free, available for us all, with no corporations involved. It has the potential to keep all illness, sickness, and physical challenge away, taking care of all of our bodies. Okay, this goes pretty deep. And I needed to dive deep into this before releasing this information, because a lot of things I heard in childhood on this subject really conflicted with what I now know. Because as you'll see, these were real deep programs that were given to us as children. And here today, I'm going to provide you with all the information, and you can make up your own mind, okay? What I'm going to do is describe something that should not make any sense whatsoever, as there's been a real strong current of denial about this that was essentially programmed into us since birth. Honestly. I even saw an episode of The Simpsons on this during my teens once, where Homer is on this boat, and I remember it was this episode with these seagulls that were talking to him or something like that, and he's essentially going mad on this boat out in the sea. So, after watching this video, if you check it out and implement what I say after doing your own research, I feel strongly that you will benefit here once you get over the cognitive dissonance of what I'm saying, which is what I've had to do myself as well on this. Okay, and here it is. You are looking at the Saviour, everyone. The vital benefits we can gain from the beach, natural salt, water, and sunlight. And the beach, at its essence, can naturally increase the strength of the immune system. Particularly relevant in these times, wouldn't you say? How? Well, I'm going to come on to the actual elements, the key nutrient piece, and the makeup of this environment in a short while. But to commence and to get started by placing all of this in context, here's what we're going to cover. First up, the beach and the seawater in particular is naturally salt, and the human body needs the correct kind of salt in order to survive and thrive. As we sweat, during exercise, or generally when we are hot, we are actually sweating out the excess or impure salt that our bodies do not actually need. Okay? What my research has led me to find is that the deep ocean water can fully relieve you from any form of disease. Sounds pretty fantastic, right? However, just allow me the course of this full video to explain just how deep this goes. And by the end, I'm sure that you're going to have a whole new perspective on this, and it is really interesting. This goes really deep, and we are just on the surface right now. Okay, so moving to the first part. There is a form of salt, and in many spiritual and biblical texts and references that you probably skipped over and have also been, altered over time, as we all know, there are references made quite a lot in the Bible to salt,
and to us being the salt of the earth. But the key thing here is that none of it really makes sense. It never made sense to me. I mean, what does "you are the salt of the earth" actually mean, right? And the first, but by no means the most important key to this, I'd like to share with you today, is that the beach has many negatively charged ions that are important for us physically, due to the fact that we have an accumulation of positive ions in our body through our daily living. And these positive ions are not highly beneficial for our health, the positive ones, right? So this led me to researching further and going to the ever fact-checked and 100% accurate source, Wikipedia, right? LOL. But I also discovered some very interesting information that I'll share with you from other sites as well, as we dive really much deeper into this. And what I knew already is that when we go to the beach and we breathe, we all know this, the air from the sea, it comes into our lungs, it goes into our body and throughout our body, all the way out to the bloodstream and in turn the lymph, which naturally strengthens our immune system. Well, how? How does this work? Well, first of all, we experience the physical benefits that you can feel when you go to the beach of promoting the calm, relaxation, well-being, and generally by the time you leave the beach, you have a happy attitude. And that we've all experienced this from one time to another from a visit to the beach, right, in the summer. It's also a fact that the beach has a lot of minerals and elements that are naturally occurring in its entire environment, including magnesium and others that I'm going to go into in depth real soon when things get really exciting here. And when we swim in the seawater, all of these minerals and elements that are in the water, they come to our skin, and the sun, which is also the best source of vitamin D on the planet, the sun also interacts with these minerals. They combine together, and this kind of forms a sort of natural skin moisturizer. It's kind of like the best natural cosmetic for the skin. And when we come off the beach, our skin is more refreshed, we feel more vitalized, we feel more energized. Why? Why do we feel more energized from this? Well, on the surface, it's due to the elemental, composition of the elements surrounding us when we're at the beach, in the water, on the sand, and breathing in this air. It is quite literally a chemistry lab orgasm of natural elements for your body, for really deep reasons of which I'm going to come onto here in depth in just a short while, okay? So hang on in here. And this is due to all of these antioxidants, all these sunshine vitamins and minerals and elements that are present in this environment that hit and are brought into our skin. Okay, moving forwards quickly here. Thirdly, in terms of swimming in natural seawater, sea salt water, I am going to share just one piece of the biblical text, okay? And that is in 2 Kings 2:20, where we find the story of Jericho, of when the waters of Jericho were made bitter. And as many of you know, I'm not deeply entrenched into religion or the Bible or all these great things, but this is really interesting. The solution to this came to Elijah and Elisha, who were called upon to heal the water and who were said to be guided to take a sack of sea salt dried out from the sea, which incidentally in those times was the only way to get salt of any kind back in ancient Israel. So Elisha, it is said in the text, got the natural sea salt and he grabbed the sea salt and threw it into the water. Okay, sounds pretty regular and normal. He threw it into the spring and the river became clean again. It became sweet again. It became drinkable. It was said that the Savior came. Savior, savory, very interesting. The scripture here also reads that from this point forwards, the waters of the world were blessed and were unable to be turned bitter again. And as we know, the waters on this plain are still salty and have remained so ever since. These are natural elements, natural fruits, natural antioxidants. Something as natural as the sea. And in this also is contained a spiritual lesson. And I don't want to stay too religious or biblical here, but it is advised, indeed commanded in places like Mark 9:50, Matthew 5:13, that we are asked to be the salt of the world with its Saviour. So the salt of the earth, with what I am reading as being the true beneficial elements. And this is not the salt that's useful only for throwing on the ground, to de-ice our roads. No. And I won't bore you with these details, but look it up for yourself. Table salt is actually a chemical byproduct, fake mimicker of real salt. So table salt is not the answer. Instead, we are asked to be the savior and the vitamins and the elements of and for the world. We are asked to be the salt of the earth. Okay, well, what does that mean? Well, it seems as though it's a message from wisdom that salt has a natural ability, as the true philosopher's stone, to take the vitamins and minerals into the body and to make the water clean again. If we have this kind of faith in the Creator and these natural ways of being, right? And those same minerals, the same elements that were able to make the water turn from bitter to sweet in this allegory, are also able to make us turn the same way, taking our health from poor health to vibrant health. Very interesting. Okay, so thank you for sticking with me up to now, because I'm kind of getting it, you may be thinking. But what I will say next, in this next section, is I'm going to translate what I've just figured out for you, which is some pretty deeply packed information that has recently just arrived to me in terms of the full explanation of what's going on here, about the savior and about the elementary composition of this salt water that I've just described, okay? And here's where things get really interesting, because the elements contained in seawater, and especially the deep seawater, are somewhat curious. And I did not know this information before it came to me here, but I did know some of the later elements that ties into this on the elements involved. So I didn't get anything to do with this until it struck me that this is what your bicarbonate cycle, the bicarbonate buffer is. It is what maintains your homeostasis, your balance, internally, and specifically for your fluids in your body, your blood plasma. And as we know from what we've already covered in the Truth series already, when I spoke about the sodium-potassium pumps and getting them in balance, you remember that part? Well, this is where that becomes real interesting, okay? This is also related to what everyone in the so-called health community is talking about when they wax lyrical about acid versus alkaline. And what we already know about that discussion or argument, shall we say, even in the spiritual chilled out community, is that it's a load of nonsense. It would take years, right? Years for you to figure this out for yourself and to do all of these processes that everyone's saying to do, all these crazy alkaline foods. But as everyone who knows me knows, this is all about balance. It's not about alkaline, 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 as everyone in the so-called health community is saying, who have not done their searching properly, right? And I'll come on to all of those and what they mean again to provide you with a revision or refresher from the parts of the course that these are contained in so that you don't have to go back through everything. But let's dive into this straight right now, okay? So when I went to the internet, and excuse, using Wikipedia for this, but it does come out quite accurate in this instance, it seems. And I verified this from other external sources that I'll come on to soon as well. And what do we see here on this page? So first of all, we see that seawater pH is typically limited to a range between 7.5 and 8.4. That's actually a little bit high. However, there is no universally accepted reference pH scale for seawater, and there is typically a difference based on different reference scales up to 0.14 units. Okay, but let's continue here to the seawater elemental composition, because here was the information I was missing, and so many people have been missing too. This is it. We see here that this is the seawater elemental composition. Okay? Looks pretty boring. I'm going to break it down for you. It has oxygen, hydrogen as the most abundant elements. Okay, fine. We can park those probably for a later date. But here's where it gets interesting. And when I saw this, I realized that I had seen this somewhere else that you will know about too from what we talked about when we talked about the bicarbonate cycle in week 3 of the course. And to gain the balance that the bicarbonate cycle is actually seeking to attain, they say you need, so much stuff you need to do, right? There's eat green, juice, do a ton of exercise, and the worst drink possible, the poisoned Kangen water and take all that, right? Get your alkaline up. It's 14 if you possibly can. Do all the fasting and all this stuff, right? But no, as we already know, that's all BS. We have the exercises to do in week 3, as you know, to naturally get us there in balance immediately, every morning. Okay? But get this also. This was the piece I was missing. That balance is all freely available in the seawater. This is what I hadn't realized. And so then I started to search, and I've realized, okay, just here, let's say, what is this vanadium here? Okay, so the next most abundant element in seawater, they are chlorine, sodium, magnesium, and sulfur. But it also has calcium, potassium, bromine, carbon, and vanadium. So I'll show you how to achieve the stasis of balance between an acid and an alkaline body. And this is freely available in salt water, folks. And to get started, we're simply talking about these elements in water. So let's just take one of these elements here and its benefits, right? So vanadium. We type it into Google, and I'll do this with you, and what do we get? Curious. We find that vanadium supplements are used as medicine. Vanadium is used for treating diabetes, low blood sugar, high cholesterol, heart disease, tuberculosis, syphilis, anemia, and water retention, for improving athletic performance in weight training. And for preventing cancer. What? Okay. Just one element in seawater does that. Okay. I'd never heard of anything like this ever before in my studies here. And I would hear also from certain friends that folks with cold and a cough from getting cold out in the rain or whatever, the best of the best, they said, what they had done to handle this, when I spoke to them this week, was seawater as well. Cough, cold, fever would vanish within hours. And as I deep researched into this, later I'm going to talk about how Franklin was also a very famous politician who also had this as a remedy that he would use. Very interesting. But anyway, okay. But if you think vanadium is interesting, trust me on this one. We're just getting to the fun stuff. Coming right here, okay? I was quite frankly shocked. And this was all I needed to piece together the few final pieces of the health jigsaw. Because I'd seen what we were doing on the Truth series, that we had most of this figured out already. But this will shock you guys, okay? What my studies and actual physical testing, again, using my own physical body, led me to, everyone, is that seawater is all you need. Once your body has gone through the full core processes in the course, right? So this was very exciting for me because I knew the way I felt before I tasted that seawater and the way I felt afterwards. And you too, because of what we've done in these past 8 weeks together, okay? Here's what I discovered. And this is mainly for when you're feeling fine already, but it can also be done if you're feeling sick as well, I gather, from folks I've been speaking with this week. How is this even possible, you might say? Just go to the beach and drink the seawater. Trust me on this one. Of course, go where the seawater is clean. Don't jump in the Hudson River and think you're going to become enlightened, for example. And if possible, and you have a friend with a boat, deep seawater, 200 meters down, drink the water. If you can afford it, guys, get a boat and get out there where you can get the deep seawater. I'll come on to exactly why a little bit later. And just a sip first, a couple of sips, and then maybe a handful a little bit later. then 2, and, build up from there, especially when you're doing fine and okay health-wise. Why is this? Okay, truth bomb number 1. Because deep sea water is a plasma, everyone. What does that mean? Well, we'll consider the properties and the elements of blood plasma shortly, and that will blow your mind probably. But I'm talking seawater here, not processed sea salt, okay? That takes away the essence of the plasma, actually, so please don't confuse those two. For those of you who keep your sea salt crystals or your pink Himalayan salt, massive bits and pieces, your Celtic sea salt, etc., in your room, that's fine. A tiny bit of Himalayan pink salt to ingest, fine. But in the ocean is the seawater. And this is all about maintaining balanced, correct pH in the body and the plasma and the blood. Okay, so what does this mean? What does calcium carbonate do, let's say? Okay, so let's start this off. And what is the bicarbonate buffer system? I don't want to make this too crazy detailed, but I do have to go into some of the details here, and I'm going to highlight the key important parts so that I can walk you through this in as quick a time frame as possible. It took me an enormous amount of research to be able to even find this for you. And here we see what happens when the seawater is evaporated to make table salt, or what they refer to as being sea salt in your salt in the supermarkets, and the process that it goes through, okay? And once you evaporate, you first of all lose calcium sulfate, as we see here. So the first thing that is getting lost is calcium carbonate, the second is calcium sulfate, and then you're left with sodium chloride, the NaCl that we're used to in the supermarkets. And this is then what gets poured all over your food. And this is what they're selling in the market as table salt and sea salt. But these two here, these two are the most important, folks. Calcium carbonate and calcium sulfate. Because what do these two elements do? They feed the bicarbonate buffer system. And I'm going to make this as simple as possible for you here right now as a refresher, because the bicarbonate buffer system is the acid-base homeostatic mechanism involving the balance of carbonic acid, bicarbonate ion, and carbon dioxide in order to maintain pH in the blood and duodenum to support proper metabolic function. The failure of this system to function properly results in acid-base imbalance, such as acidemia with a pH less than 7.35, and alkalemia with a pH more than 7.45 in the blood. So, what does this tell us? It tells us that with table salt, without the correct minerals that promote this balance, you can get into trouble, because it can start the cascade effect into your hormones imbalance, which leads to all manner of additional problems later down the line, as we have discussed already, including massive weight gain. And this is what led me to sea salt, guys, because I've researched bicarbonate a ton, as we all know, because the whole social priming is that, carbon dioxide is bad, but carbon dioxide is needed as being like the brother of oxygen. And without this system properly functioning, you will not even survive. So we need carbonate, folks. We need carbon in the current form of the bodies that we have. And of course, there's less need for carbon as you metamorphosize, but that is for later. So, repeating this here, the bicarbonate buffer system is the acid-based homeostatic mechanism involving the balance of carbonic acid, bicarbonate ion, and carbon dioxide in order to maintain pH in the blood and duodenum to support proper metabolic function. This is the reasons folks get disease, because you need a homeostatic, balanced body, folks. And this is what the bicarbonate buffer system does. So if you're eating table salt, you are not going to get this imbalance, guys. You're just not. And one of the things you miss, as I say here, is sulfate, calcium sulfate, for which we can really read the sulfur. Okay, because they always tell you about calcium in the mainstream as being this holy grail that we all need for literally everything, right? Our bones, our teeth, our, everything, skeleton. But they never tell you about the sulfur. So I will tell you about the sulfur here. And for this, we can go to Ayurveda. And as we see here on this website that I found, sulfur, which is also called gandhak in Ayurveda, is mainly present in sulfur-containing amino acids like cysteine. And gandhak in the body purifies blood, it aids in healthy digestion, and prevents a toxic buildup. And so this site talks about the Ayurvedic ways to prepare like a form of sulfur, which is not what you're actually looking to do here, because you don't need to alchemize this whatsoever. And as we see further down here, sulfur is used in Ayurveda for the treatment of a wide variety of diseases, including itching, diseases of the skin, rheumatism, for a kapha imbalance, for ameliorating accumulated poison, for spleen issues, cough, asthma, and eye issues. And also purified sulfur is useful in cough aspects, asthma, consumption, general debility, enlargement of the liver and spleen, chronic fevers, and all this stuff. And it's a well-known medicine for diseases of the skin. Now, as we know, Ayurveda stands for balance, the balance of the body. Not perfection, guys. It's all about balance and homeostasis that we're looking for. And this is all in ionic form in the ocean, folks. And as you can see in the chemicals here, they are all the electrolytes in the chemicals. This is why I'm coming to the conclusion that this ocean that we swim in, it's like a natural technology because of its composition that I'm going to come on to now. And this is quite literally life-changing, guys, especially from what you already know about from weeks 3 and 5, because right now you're able to fully absorb all of this, right? Okay, so let's continue. And you don't just need to take my word on this one. I will also share with you some very not famous names for very understandable reasons why this is so, based on what I've been searching. Okay, onwards. Sulfur. Back to Wikipedia. Sulfur is an essential element for all life, but almost always in the form of organosulfur compounds or metal sulfides. 3 amino acids, being cysteine, and methionine, and 2 vitamins, biotin and thiamine, are organosulfur compounds. And I will come to amino acids soon. Amino acids, as we know, are the building blocks of protein. They say the building blocks of life, right? And just down here at the bottom paragraph here, sulfur is one of the core elements, chemical elements needed for biochemical functioning, and is an elemental macronutrient for all living organisms. Okay, so back into it, and this is the critical information here, folks. The sodium-potassium pump. And this is critical because potassium is inside your cells. Sodium is outside your cells, you'll remember. And you need to, just like the pressure in your heart, you need to have the balance here. It goes down and up and down. It's essentially how the entire universe pumps. And when you take table salt, you miss this, the potassium. And you don't get it in ionized form, which is what you need, because your body is magnetoelectric, right? All the minerals are here, folks, in the ocean. Your body plasma is exactly like the ocean, folks. And I couldn't believe it when I found this version, this cached version of this. I tried searching this on Google and it would not come up. I actually had to go deep into this and find a cached version of this page. And you can see, you can search, and everything that is needed in the seawater, electrolytes, and you can research this all yourself, folks. You can key this into Google right now. But here, check this out, the fluid and electrolyte balance. Electrolytes are minerals in your body and they have an electric charge. They actually conduct electricity when mixed with water. They balance water, maintain pH, they move nutrients in and waste out of cells, and they regulate nerve and muscle function and the brain. They also hydrate the body. As we know, they balance blood activity and pressure and help rebuild damaged tissue. Muscles, neurons, and synapses are also referred to as the electric tissues of the body. The electric tissues of the body, as are your bones, referred to as piezoelectric in many circles right now. And where have we seen this, folks? This part. Electrolytes in the body include sodium, calcium, potassium, chloride, phosphate, and magnesium, bicarbonate also. You get them from the foods you eat and the fluids you drink. These, as we have seen, are also in seawater. But this is where I nearly fell off my chair when I started putting these dots together. When I connected the dots on electrolytes and their approximate content in the body fluid, this is where everything finally became 100% clear. Okay, approximate major electrolyte content in body fluid. As you can see, your body fluid, so blood plasma, lymph, body fluid, is really nothing but ocean water. So very close to seawater in its composition, it is uncanny. And just to explain what these aspects here mean, approximately 2/3 to 70% of body fluid is in the intracellular fluid. So that's ICF, which means inside the cells of the body. And inside the cells of the body is composed of water, protein, and a large amount of potassium. And phosphates and other substances, electrolytes, are in very small quantities, but I highlighted a large amount of potassium. And approximately 1/3, or around 30%, is in the extracellular fluid, the ECF, as we see here, this compartment, including all body fluids outside the cell. And this fluid flows through the blood vessels as plasma and surrounds each cell. So extracellular fluid volume is composed of water, a large amount of sodium, highlighted for you, chlorine or chloride ions, and bicarbonate and other substances in small quantity. And this part is really, really important. Sodium and potassium, as we have seen here, are of the highest quantity. And this is critical for a balanced reason. As we see here, approximately 142 parts and 141 parts respectively, which is where the ideal balance comes in. So one could say on a spiritual level that we kind of cry salt water, right? Could that be that our bodies are actually craving the correct balance of nutrients and that we get out of whack, just because it's like your soul body is actually craving for the correct salt, the correct electrolytes, the correct ionized forms of amino acids, the ocean water, the savior. So, jump in it. And I've got a pretty strong feeling you won't be crying again, quite naturally. But let's continue further here, because this is where we'll get real interesting. What is the composition of ocean water? Many folks don't realize, I did not realize this. The other key here is chlorine. It's very interesting, and it is 55% content in seawater. So just over half of our seawater is chlorine. Chloride ions are necessary to all forms of life, right? And why is this? And you simply could not make this up. From what I referred to earlier about this being a technology, right? You literally couldn't make this up. So let's continue. Well, where do we see lots of chlorine in daily life, and what's it used for? Preventing infection. And what's the greatest cause of death? Well, death comes, finally, ask any doctor or nurse about this, through infection. Bacterial, fungal, viral infection. They are all the final means of death, right? To keep that away, chlorine, it is a disinfectant for your body. The body is 70% water. 99% of the final cause of death is from the disease that sets in after, from the virus, the bacteria, etc., right? Ask any doctor this. Why do you think we see disinfectants so prominent in hospitals? Is it to keep the infection away? Disinfectant is everywhere in hospitals. Doctors know this. And we can take it internally. If you have chlorine, you are fine. And you don't have to fear a thing. To keep the infection away, you can take seawater, which contains ionic 55% chlorine. And as a halogen, chlorine is a highly effective disinfectant. Let's just check this out further about water chlorination. And it's added to public water supplies to kill disease-causing pathogens such as bacteria, viruses, and protozoans that commonly grow in water supply reservoirs, on the walls of water mains, and in storage tanks. Your body is 70% water, folks. And if you get infected with bacteria and viruses, 99% of human diseases are bacteria and viruses. And only chlorine can destroy it. It has many incredible destructive properties for that sort of stuff. We'll see here on the next page. It's an extremely reactive element and a strong oxidizing agent. Among the elements, it has the highest electron affinity and the third highest electronegativity on the Pauling scale, behind only oxygen and fluorine. Literally, anything that enters its sphere, it will destroy through oxidation, guys. But so you don't die from infection, that is just the one element within the seawater that chlorine helps you with. But there are more, way more, and you don't get this in table salt, okay? These are the amino acids in deep sea water, okay? Amino acids, we've mentioned them before, are the building blocks of life. The high mineral content is in the deep sea water. Deep sea water, so clean deep sea water beneath 200 meters from a source that you know is not polluted. Just hire a boat and pump some out, okay? And it has all these properties. So approximately 17 different amino acids in acid hydroxylates of dissolved organic material in seawater to depths of 3,500 meters have been identified. They are glutamic acid, lysine, glycine, aspartic acid, serine, alanine, leucine. Have you ever heard of lysine? Okay, well I have, but let's take a look at what it actually does. Okay, we'll Google this. So health benefits of lysine. May protect against and treat cold sores by blocking arginine. It may reduce anxiety. It may improve calcium absorption and retention. It can promote wound healing by helping create collagen. Okay, a little bit further here. Lysine is an amino acid, a building block of protein. People use it to make medicine. Interesting. Lysine is used for preventing and treating cold sores caused by the virus called herpes simplex labialis. It is taken by mouth or applied directly to the skin for this use. I never knew all these things that it can do. But let's continue. Okay, so what about the next one? Let's find out about glycine. Okay, type in glycine here, the first result that comes up. Here are the top 9 health benefits and uses of glycine. Needed to produce a powerful antioxidant. Is a component of creatine. It's the main amino acid in collagen. It may improve your sleep quality. May protect your liver from alcohol-induced damage. May protect your heart. By the way, whenever anything says may on these things, it means it very highly likely can. Just take that as a disclaimer. May aid people with type 2 diabetes. May protect against muscle loss. We're just getting started here, folks, okay? So let's go on to aspartic acid. Never heard of that one. Okay, aspartic acid. It is used in other body functions. Aspartic acid is used to reduce feelings of tiredness, improve athletic performance, and increase the size and strength of muscles. They use this to not get tired, long-distance runners especially. I know this. Okay, so let's check out serine. Serine is needed to produce the amino acid tryptophan, which is imperative to the construction of other important neurotransmitters. So this is in relation to the brain. Tryptophan is a natural relaxant, relieves stress, anxiety, and depression, and most critically is used in the making of serotonin. By the way, 5-HTP is called 5-hydroxytryptophan, I believe, useful for depression if you can't get to the C. Alanine Okay, let's go on to alanine now. Beta-alanine enhances performance by increasing exercise capacity and decreasing muscle fatigue. It also has antioxidant, immune-enhancing, and anti-aging properties. This is wonderful, folks. Everything that you need that they say you should buy from the health food store or the fitness store is all in seawater, folks. But if you want to really win the race, simply, I am here to bring this information to you when I say this. This is actually one of the greatest technologies ever created. I say that with no sense of awe or wonder, simply fact. 17 different amino acids. You don't get this in table salt. It all gets evaporated. You know, a nice trick that Pasteur pulled on us even with boiling salt. You need this in the water form, the natural form. And we also have here, we have cysteine and methionine here as well. And I've researched deep into this as well, as you know, from week 4. And as we know, these are also the precursors to the creation of glutathione. And you may or may not remember, but glutathione that is sold as a dietary supplement is mostly destroyed during digestion. It's a nice con that they get us there with. So instead, as we know, we can take cysteine and glutamine in the form of glutamic acid, and cysteine actually from the ocean, which stimulates the liver to build up large amounts of glutathione. Glutathione, you get it for free here. With NAC cysteine, you get kidney and liver assistance. It aids respiratory conditions, boosts the brain function, improves fertility also. It's also used in boosting glutathione to help improve immune function also. Okay, so we're not taking too much of this, and initially it will make you feel too thirsty and dehydrated. So just a couple of handfuls, or a couple of sips the first time you take it. And the first times you take this, you will feel thirsty and a little dehydrated afterwards, and that is totally normal. Just keep on, day by day, 1 sip if that's all you can stomach, and maybe 2, maybe a handful because your body is not used to the taste of seawater. So if you absolutely need to, you can dilute it, sometimes with spring water. But the aim is to be able to handle the tastes, because the reason for one not liking the taste initially is because you're not used to it. And thus your body is not as perfected as it should be from a balanced plasma level. Otherwise, you would just feel like it tastes like nothing, really. And the ultimate aim, as far as I've been able to discover, is to make our body plasma as close as possible to seawater, right in the middle of the acid and alkaline spectrum balance, between 7.2 to 7.3 pH, 7, let's call it. And 3 to 4 days in, you may feel, amazingly thirsty when you take seawater, but slowly your body will get used to it, until you can literally drink it by the handful. Initial stages, you may have difficulty drinking the ocean water, but afterwards you will do it incredibly, and just build up from there. Ocean water has literally everything you need in the right proportions. If you're really looking to get the very best stuff, you need the deep salt water. Because at 200 meters below sea level, you gain the ideal concentration of the minerals that we've just discussed. However, regular shoreline seawater is fine as well in terms of its composition. Trust me on this one. You're achieving a balanced neutral perfection, so nothing can really get you. Spiritual, physical, mental, otherwise. You'll become untouchable. And what I'd also like to say is not to use like a deep seawater company water that they're selling. Because they're trying to be smart. They're trying to make you pay through the nose for it. It's incorrect. And some companies are selling this stuff, like in Taiwan and all this stuff, but it doesn't contain the same nutrients. It needs that 55% chlorine, the other minerals, and it's free. So in terms of my deeper research, I looked for further confirmation, and this led me to a number of websites. From this website, it says the ocean minerals have everything in the right proportion, folks, and this is where we need to get our minerals from. Sea salt is the world's most old antibiotic known to man. Somewhere along the way, the history books have forgotten this great medicine that bacteria and viruses offered absolutely no resistance to it whatsoever. It is the simplest medicine I've ever known. For those people who want an even more powerful medicine, just add 1 whole lemon juice to sea salt and its antibiotic and antiviral capabilities is extended many times. For me, in practice, just sea salt works wonders. No, you don't need Himalayan sea salt or dead sea salt. For me, local Thai sea salt works amazingly well anyway. Of course, I did not get a chance to try other sea salts, but I'm certain Thai sea salt works better than any antibiotics I'm aware of. Well, at least for common ailments we experience every day. Sea salt does not raise blood pressure that much. What raises your blood pressure is usually the common salts you buy from the supermarkets. Cooked hot dogs with additives raise your blood pressure. Eating salted potato chips raises your blood pressure. Eating sugar plus salt raises your blood pressure. In fact, I read a research which tested the effect on blood pressure on just sea salt alone. Negligible increases. Apparently, sodium gets the blame. But in fact, other additives were responsible for the sodium retention and absorption. For example, salt and monosodium glutamate. That's what is added invariably to pretty much any Eastern food, especially Chinese and Japanese foods, as we know. Taken together, and wow, my blood pressure went skyrocketing. Eating French fries, especially salted ones, skyrockets too. Apparently, it might be the cancer-causing acrylamide when vegetable oils are heated at high temperatures and interferes with liver function. Ah yes, here's the part, just one of the references that I had to Benjamin Franklin. Let me tell you briefly how well sea salt has worked. Benjamin Franklin mentioned in his biography that when he had a cold, he went to the sea and drank the water. The water was full of salt, and he found that he was cured the next day. Yes, sea salt has antiviral properties. And I will put a link to this article in the description so that you can see it as well and continue your own research, of course. But it also has some other highlights. I just wanted to briefly mention some of them for you now. Okay, so within this same page, I'm just going to search for the mineralization parts. And for this, we search here in the article for mineral. Yeah, that's right. Okay, and yes, here the first result. The reason I wanted to mention this is because of Soleil. So here we see when water and salt are combined, they form a new dimension, Soleil. Soleil is alive. It's the fundamental mineral infusion for your body. You can replace electrolytes and balance your energy simply and naturally by drinking a Soleil solution each day. The Soleil is an excellent product for balancing the pH factor of your body. With the Soleil, one can also get rid of heavy metals such as lead, mercury, arsenic, amalgam, and calcium because the crystal salt is able to break up their molecular structure. Why I mention this is simply because with Soleil, you can make a very easy to use Soleil using pure Himalayan pink salt in the ratio of 20 to 80 pink salt to pure water. You just leave it for a day or two and you will have a Soleil extraction, as you know, which is essentially the minerals that have been extracted from the pink salt and are now more bioavailable. And I mention this for if you just can't get to the sea just yet and you have to wait for that, okay? Okay, so here, the next results. The Hippocratic school held that all illness was the result of an imbalance in the body of the 4 humours, fluids, which in health were naturally equal in proportion. When the 4 humours, blood, black bile, yellow bile, and phlegm, were not in balance, a person would become sick and remain that way until the balance was somehow restored. Hippocratic theory was directed towards restoring this balance. And if our doctors actually still followed Hippocrates' early wisdom in the use of salts, many people would have found relief from ailments caused by mineral imbalances and deficiencies. Someday, maybe in our lifetime, we can only hope that this will no longer be the case. Okay, and the next results. Homeopathic salt. Ah yes, I wanted to mention this also because of the way that you may not be able to get to the ocean. This is another potential option open to you as well. So biochemical cell salts. N.H. Schlusser, a German doctor in the 1800s, he developed a special biochemical therapy based on 12 mineral salts which he considered crucial for cell function. And he administered the salts in homeopathic doses, an extremely wide range of indications, etc., etc. And you can read this for yourself because I'm going to put this in the description. But what I wanted to add on here is that apparently, due to the timing of us being in the womb for just 9 to 10 months when we're in gestation, and there being these 12 salts, each one of which corresponds to a particular star alignment of the zodiac, we are all deficient in 3 of the 12 due to this gestation period being abrupt. So you can also figure out which of the 3 that you're deficient in and focus on taking those salts to restore your cell's salt balance. And I found this, when I did this, to be okay. I didn't particularly like taking these salts because they were quite strong. And as I now know, way better is ocean water. Okay, so next results. Okay, and then the next. Yes, of course, this is all about balance. Too much or too little of any mineral will be a potential issue. Sea salt is in balance. So as I mentioned throughout this video, all about balance. Not too much, not too little. So whatever is correct for you in the moment, ocean water is what is correct for you. And see if you can build up from there. It makes you happy. It improves your muscle quality, even your vision and your hair. It will turn your hair more back to its natural color. You know, blonde, dark hair, whatever you originally have in the original DNA blueprint, you know, that your children still have. Because your vibration will be getting much higher. Because you are matching your good plasma with the ocean. So I will link this article also in the description so that you can check it fully out for yourself, as there's a ton of information in there. And also I found one other article online, which was sea salt life-giving. So what do I want to mention here? Oh yeah, okay. So in the history section here, it says that Dr. Langray mentioned in his book that the Belgian historian Henri Pirenne observed that during the High Middle Ages, the entire coast of the Atlantic was deserted and the entire continent was thrown into a dark age of human underdevelopment. Historians tell us that it was caused to a great extent by the lack of salt in the human diet, the flooding of all salt flats having disabled every salt farm along the coastlines of the Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea. The whole of Europe therefore suffered from a salt famine that was to last almost 500 years. The daily average ration fell to less than 2 grams per person and caused many to die from dehydration and madness. The extent of the salt famine reported by Henri Pirenne caused human flesh to be sold on the open markets and created an epidemic of crazed people who, to replenish their salt, drank blood from the neck artery of the person they had just slain. How lovely. Slightly mad, but see what a lack of minerals can do to your sense of humanity. Right there. It's because the negative entities had entered their spirit bodies and were running the show right there, folks. Vampires and all that so-called, made up stuff is probably more real than we could possibly imagine. Again, due to imbalance. People went mad if they didn't have the same qualities that this seawater provides in their bodies. So my final research continued because I also wanted to know if anybody else had discovered this kind of wisdom as well. Who also knew about this? Because surely it must have been discovered before already, by other people in the know, right? Right. As we all know, information has been suppressed throughout history, and we only tend to generally now get the useless nonsense crap from the official line crackpot, junkie, drunk crazies that we're told are the geniuses of this world. Not to mention any names, but you all know my feelings on Einstein and Newton and Pasteur in particular, who, quite frankly, were tripping as hard as the Beatles when they came up with their 80% worth of junky, crackpot, useless garbage, literally garbage, that the mainstream now accepts as real. Ignoring the greats like Nikola Tesla, John Wheeler, the Walrus, who on the contrary were right pretty much 80% of the time. So, the latest great man in this area, let me introduce you to Rene Quinton. This guy should be at the tip of all school children's tongues, not Louis Pasteur. Bit of a statement, that. René Quinton was a recognized doctor, biologist, biochemist, and physiologist. At the end of the 19th century, René Quinton was committed to answering the profound question, where did all life begin? He researched deeply into seasonal vortex plankton blooms, which have inevitably led him to the ocean. He scientifically demonstrated that any living being, irrespective of its place in the animal hierarchy, was and continues to be a marine aquatic creature whose cells are born and live under the same aquatic conditions in which primitive cells first formed. Thus, the composition of human blood is almost the same as that of seawater. This led him to write his book, L'eau de mer, milieu organique, which means seawater organic medium, where he established scientifically the organic relationship that exists between seawater and blood plasma. This was over 100 years ago. This guy is the dude, folks. I wanted to show you this because it is the origin of the research where what I found has come from. And then we continue. Quinton defined the law of osmotic constancy at the end of the 19th century, and he discovered that our inner environments, the liquid in which our cells are bathed, has almost identical mineral composition and concentration with diluted ocean water, and responds to constant osmotic interchanges with the intra- and extracellular environments. Remember what I said earlier about the ICL and the ECL environments, the sodium-potassium pump balance inside and outside the cells? This links also, by the way, into Dr. Lipton's work on perception and cell behavior, if you're really into his kind of stuff. And this is all about establishing the correct environment of balance, neutrality, folks. So essentially, he helped thousands of people with their illnesses, and he actually diluted his seawater, but I've been simply drinking it. And he also emphasized bathing for a minimum of 20 minutes in the ocean for absorption. René Quinton was the biologist who proved 100 years ago that the composition of human blood plasma and the raw but diluted oceanic water were alike. Based on this premise, he elaborated a marine plasma bearing his name. His research. The works of Pasteur bring us a thought conception of disease. Those of Quinton bring us a conception of health. What is Pasteur's serum? It is a serum for and against a particular disease, a serum which attacks a given microbe and none other. What is seawater? It is a serum which attacks no microbe in particular, but provides the organic cell with the force to fight off all microbes. That is really all we need to know. But as one final nugget piece of information for you, did you know that Louis Pasteur actually recanted on his deathbed? He actually did this. He recanted. Originally, and throughout his life, he said, Monsieur, c'est les microbes qui auront le dernier mot, which when translated means, gentlemen, it is the microbes who will have the last word. However, on his deathbed, he said, ce n'est pas le microbe, c'est l'environ. Basically, what he was saying is that he said that his contemporary, Claude Bernard, was correct. This translates as his saying that the microbe, the germ, is nothing, and that the terrain, the milieu, is everything. And that whole discourse will take us into a lengthy discussion of the germ theory versus microzymian theory, essentially germs or the environment in which the germ is present as being most important, which literally we don't have time for here. I've gone way past what I thought this would go for. But I will drop this link also for you so that you can also begin that search for yourself. It is quite revealing. And that's a bit of a deep rabbit hole, and you'll come up against a ton of folks defending the current status quo. But then again, that will always be the case if you follow the money. Finally, I wanted to leave you with one final piece which should allow all of what I've just said to fall neatly into place for you. Potentially the aha final moment, if you even still need one from this discourse, okay? When you're ill in hospital, what do you invariably get intravenously? A drip. And what does that drip contain? You can Google it for yourself. What is IV fluid made of? Saline solution. Okay, and further, what is in hospital IV? Intravenous IV fluid drips deliver a combination of saline solution, vitamins, and electrolytes through a small catheter and tubing directly into the bloodstream. The ingredients in individual IV formulas are specifically blended to address a variety of health needs. Sounds just like seawater. Hey guys. It remineralizes, balances electrolytes, normalizes the pH, and energizes, improving the internal body and underlying physical root cause of many thousands of issues we experience. And it gets us out of hospital beds quicker than we ever would without it. Ask any physician or nurse. So, hopefully you will have a chance to visit the ocean soon and to experience this again in your life. Thank you for watching this video, and if you like this video, please press like, and if you'd like to also subscribe to my channel here, because I'm going to be dropping more vitality wisdom, practical knowledge, and wisdom that you can share with your friends and family and actually use in your life starting right now. Have a great day, and be well, folks.
Okay, brief follow-up to what I was just saying. This is at the beach. So, like, check it out. Not one chemtrail. Not one. Pure blue skies. Absolutely unprecedented in recent times. And if I was to leave my camera pointing here, you would also see that the planes are taking off very regularly. One just went actually. Yeah, I can't see. There's probably be something like there now. But one just went off. They're going off just like they are like normal, and they're floating up into the sky without any form of trailing at all. So it's not the regular planes. How beautiful. Look at that wispy white normal clouds.